Stefan's on the drugs again.
We're reviewing King Kong.
Yeah!
Welcome to the Welch review.
Yeah!
So, wait, and not just like, we're not doing the 1933 King Kong, we're not doing the 1970 King Kong.
We're doing the undisputed best King Kong, and if you have an opinion otherwise, then you're wrong.
That's right, and that's Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Boom!
Yeah, what?
Right back. Keep going.
So, the cast for this lovely film is Jack Black, Adrian Brody, Naomi Watts, Thomas Christopherson.
That's a horrible name.
Butchered that guy's name, so I'm so sorry, man.
He should have a better name.
Jamie Bell and Colin Hanks, which really, really solid cast. Didn't see Jack Black in a more dramatic type role, but it was really refreshing, and he did a really good job as Carl Denham. Also, Kyle Chandler's in this movie too. My apologies, Kyle Chandler, but you were good as Bruce Baxter. But anyway, so as I'm sure most of you know, the premise of the movie, right? The plot. Essentially, you have a movie producer, Carl Denham, right, who has come into possession of this mythic and ancient and also very dangerous map. And he plans on shooting his new film on location at this specific destination, which happens to be Skull Island. And he's kind of, I believe they called him a janky self-promoter, right? They don't really think he's great at producing movies. They think it's kind of just like, extra stock footage they can make money off it. So he hears this and he decides, you know what, screw it. We're just going to dip out of town and go make this movie without the production company and investors' permission.
So basically, illegally, because he doesn't have any money, he's lying to everybody about having money. He's stealing the company's equipment to do that. He's writing checks in their name. He's lying to his cast and his cameraman and his crew. He's lying to the crew of the ship that they're using.
Yep.
But yeah, so then they just dip out. They go to Skull Island.
But honest, the beauty part of like this movie, and don't get me wrong, Marion C. Cooper did a fabulous job with the 1933 version, but Peter Jackson does such a good job like weaving moments from the original and exploring some things in greater detail into his updated version, right? Like he dives into, I feel like, the heart of the Great Depression. And that's where Carl, like people who really, they're clinging to something to believe in, right? Like they need something to survive. In some cases this is also a survival story, it's also a love story, it's also a thrilling action adventure. So while Carl's dipping out of town, he realizes he doesn't have an actress, right? A lead. So he stumbles across a young Andero who's like vaudeville act house, right? Has closed and she's out of work and she resorts to stealing, and he's like, hey pretty lady, did you drop this here nickel or dime, and buys her an apple. And then they have like breakfast for dinner, and he proposes, hey, you should come do this movie. And ipso facto she signs up, and like Sam said, then they're off to Skull Island. And then what happens when they're on Skull Island?
So first thing that happens is they run into some natives, and the natives aren't too happy to see them. They try to murder them after Carl tries to force chocolate onto some random child. So they try to kill them unsuccessfully because the crew comes and saves the cast, right? The ship crew does, with machine guns and pistols and stuff, and they shoot and or scare away a lot of these natives. But then the natives come back and they steal Anne and they sacrifice her to King Kong, who instead of killing her is like, ooh, this is a pretty blonde lady, I like that. So then,
something about a blonde, as Dad would say.
As our father says. So King Kong falls in love with a girl, as monkeys do all the time with blonde women.
Boy meets girl.
Monkey meets lady.
Monkey meets...
So yeah, but that's where the plot starts to come together. Well, I mean, it was already pretty together. But anyway, so monkey falls in love with woman. this movie then becomes a love story between a monkey and a lady. Not in a creepy way, though. Don't worry.
You could argue it's also like a love triangle, right? Because you got Kong.
We're getting to that.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, jumping.
So meanwhile, while Kong is falling in love with Anne, and Anne's like, "Hey, this monkey's actually kind of cool." There is a rescue party coming to save Anne from this big monkey, and one of them in that crew, I can't remember his name. What's his name?
Jack Driscoll.
Jack Driscoll, played by Adrian Brody.
Big nose.
Big nose, huge nose.
Big
My nose
nose
is big, and his nose is bigger than mine. It's like boom,
Pinocchio.
like, boom. So, anyways, Adrian Brody is on his way to save the girl that he loves, who loves him. And that's where the love triangle comes in between the monkey, who's top of the love triangle, obviously, Adrian Brody and
Darrow.
And Darrow.
Naomi Watts.
Because Naomi Watts, and she should be the top of the love triangle. But basically, all of them want to be with Anne, and Anne likes both of them, except one's a monkey. So
one's a monkey.
Basically, the movie then continues to follow these two separate parties, right? Anne Darrow and Kong, and then Adrian Brody and Jack Black and their crew of people trying to rescue them. Up until eventually, Adrian Brody saves Anne Darrow, and then Kong chases them, and they capture Kong because basically their movie gets like messed up by a pit, as pits tend to do, and they need like a plan B, and that plan B winds up being kidnap the giant monkey that can kill all of us.
Monkey napping.
And then put that monkey on display in New York to make money.
Yep. Which, as you know, results in some serious monkey business.
It doesn't go well.
A tale as old as time, Beauty and the Beast. And the Beast is a giant monkey that climbs the Empire State Building and gets
gets murdered by planes.
So, if anything, damn you, government, for shooting down this monkey and his big, beautiful heart for loving Anne.
Yeah, dude. But what's kind of beautiful about this movie is it makes you believe in this love in between a giant CG monkey and Darrow. So throughout the whole movie, you're kind of rooting for the monkey instead of the people. It's like, yo, leave King Kong alone. He's not trying to hurt anybody. All these blonde women he's thrown is because they're not Anne Darrow, and he's just looking for his Anne, So that's really it. It's just like a love story where King Kong is just kind of like this sorry dude who's trying to find the love of his life, who happens to be 20 feet shorter than he is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It is.
It's truly a touching film. Better than the Titanic on every level.
And Adrian Brody ruins everything. I mean, that and the planes.
What's cool is you said after watching it, any movie that can make me identify with a monkey is a good movie.
Yeah.
If that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Or I have some ideas of what will.
What are some of your favorite scenes?
So for me, some of the most iconic scenes I think is when Kong fights the three Tyrannosaurus Rexes, or V-Rexes as Peter Jackson calls them in this. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you. That's so iconic, and I love the shot where there's one T-Rex left and it's looking right at Anne, and then she's like, what's gonna happen? And then Kong jumps over her and he's all like, ooh. And then the camera just focuses on all three of them, in a very big wide shot, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and then King Kong rips its mouth in half.
Yeah, and then he plays with it. It's like,
it don't work no more.
It don't work no more. I did that.
That was me. Something else that I love is that King Kong all the time he's like, ah, after he does something cool.
Yeah.
So he's like, look at me, I did something. Then he's like, oh wait, my family's dead. And then he just gets depressed and walks away. You know what I mean? So I don't know, he's his own hype man, but then he realizes that nobody's there to see him be hype.
Right.
And then he gets sad, and it's like, yo, man, poor monkey.
Poor monkey. Yeah, another way of looking at this is Adrian Brody is Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Yeah.
And Kong's just like, yo, man, you find your own princess.
Yeah.
You know?
But
So, like, that's really dope. I also really like that, like, so the spider pit sequence, right? That Sam mentioned, the pit that destroys Carl Denham's movie. And by destroy means the camera falls and smashes into a billion pieces.
yeah, on like a 40-foot drop
Yep,
or
just-
something.
So the fun part about that is, so in the original 1933 version, there was a spider pit sequence, but it got edited out and then it was lost, right? So it didn't end up in the final cut. So Peter Jackson, knowing this, because growing up, this was his favorite movie. Like, when he wrote this movie, he was given the option to remake two things. Either Creature from the Black Lagoon or King Kong. So essentially, he got to live out a childhood dream, right, and work on his favorite movie, which is awesome. So he recreated the spider pit sequence for this movie because it didn't make it into the original, and that had some of the spookiest, like, bug conglomeration of creatures I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're nasty.
It was not pretty, and I will let your imagination work with that. But another really big, like, scene, right, is like the infatuation you see on screen between Naomi Watts and Kong, right? Like, she does a great job because what originally she's looking at is Andy Serkis with a bunch of motion capture, like, dots on his face. So the fact that she's not, like, chuckling looking at, like, a grown 40-year-old man act like a monkey is amazing.
Yeah, you got to be a good actor to do that, or actress. Yeah.
Absolutely. But, like, so then when you see the scenes play out in the film, you're like, oh, man, like, there's some nice, somber moments there. And you're like, you know what? If it wasn't, like, weird and it was socially acceptable, like, yo, man, that's a beautiful thing. It's like real Beauty and the Beast, but like a gorilla, you know? And it was like, oh, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I want you to live happily ever after. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's real tasteful.
Peter Jackson's King Kong, definitely, at least in my book, #1 King Kong movie, best in class. Yeah, I don't know. Go out, get it, watch it. If you haven't seen it, it's 20 years old. What have you been doing with your life?
It's amazing. This movie came out when I was in the 6th grade, and I've been obsessed with it ever since then.
This came out in 2003, didn't it?
No, 2006.
2006, not 20 years old.
14
years old.
Almost there though.
Yeah.
So, like, truly a great movie. And it's like, oh, the other cool thing. So one of our other reviews, we talked about Peter Jackson's film Dead Alive, right, or Brain Dead, and that was technically Peter Jackson's first trip to Skull Island because the Sumatran rat monkey was from Skull Island. So he did a cool little, like, you know, Easter egg where in the bottom of the ship, right? Because it seems like Lumpy and the ship's captain, what they dabble in aside from being like a transport vessel is smuggling animals into zoos. And it showed one, like a crate that said Sumatran rat monkey in it. So it's like Peter Jackson, like, affirming that they're connected, connected films. And I thought that was really cool just to see how far he's come from, you know, making, like, some gory, you know, crazy thing to, like, this, like, truly masterful piece of cinema.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the last thing that I want to say is, like, while the CG is slightly dated in some instances, like 99% of the time, I think it holds its own with even, like, modern day stuff. And this is a 14-year-old movie, so the fact that it, like, the CG is so good, like, it was, like, bleeding edge for its time, and it still holds up very well to this day. So if you watch it, you know, the scenery is going to be beautiful, the monsters are going to be beautiful. That sounds kind of weird. Really realistic, I guess. Even if Kong is, you know, still, you know, his relationship is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
He's a big gorilla.
You know, if anything, remember Kong is king. Check out Peter Jackson's King Kong. It is just a masterclass in everything.
Good film.
This has been the Welch Review. Thank you for watching us.